Hello, everyone. It's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another daily dose, our final daily dose of Ixalan spoilers. So, the full set came out just a few minutes ago, and in all honesty, we don't really have that much to talk about today because this spoiler season was unique with that huge spoiler dump on the very beginning of spoiler season, actually before it even officially started. We got a lot of stuff early. Even the good uncommons were kind of previewed when they normally sometimes end up getting dumped. So we didn't really get too much that's exciting today. However, we have one last rare to talk about. Came out late yesterday. And then we have a few like semi-interesting commons and uncommons. But mostly, we'll go over those cards. But I want to remind you, you can check out the entire Ixalan spoiler over on the Goldfish site. There's a link in this video description. So if you want to sort and look over all the spoilers, make sure to check that out. Anyway, let's jump into it. Probably be a short one today. First off, we have our last rare, Vance's Blasting Cannons, the red member of the Flips to a Land cycle. And this card's pretty sweet. 4 mana legendary enchantment. Beginning your upkeep, you get to exile the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card, you can cast it this turn. So you do have to pay the mana cost. It doesn't say without the mana cost, but it's basically like an outpost siege for the most part. And then, if you cast 3 spells in a turn, you get to flip Vance's Blasting Cannons around into Spitfire Bastion, which is a pretty powerful land. For 3 mana, you can tap it and Lightning Bolt something. 3 damage to a creature or player, which is a pretty good deal. It can shoot down a reasonable number of creatures, closes out the game pretty quickly. The cost is not extremely high when you consider this is coming from a land. So overall, we basically have a combination of Outpost Siege on the front half, which is actually really sweet. I've definitely played a ton of Outpost Sieges. Gives you a lot of card advantage in kind of a big red deck or like a teamer deck. Any sort of mid-rangey or even aggro red deck can use this as a way to fight against control decks and so forth. And then the flip side, Spitfire Bastion is like a fixed Valakut or an upgraded Keldon Necropolis, depending on if you're a glass half full or glass half empty kind of person. I mean, you get the 3 damage like Valakut. The problem is you really lose on the combo potential, and you gotta spend mana for it, so you don't really have a way to just kill your opponent out of nowhere like you do with Valakut. On the other hand, Spitfire Bastion is definitely better than Keldon Necropolis, which does less damage, costs way more mana, makes you sacrifice a creature, so I think this is actually a pretty reasonable card for Standard. I think the most obvious home, and this is exciting from a budget player's perspective, is Vance's Blasting Cannon can kind of serve like a really budget version of Chandra for your deck. Obviously, it's not as powerful. It can't come down and kill something directly right away. It can't ramp, but it gives you that +1 effect where every turn you're drawing an extra card, which is a lot of times what you want to be doing with your Chandra is just generating that card advantage, and Vance's Blasting Cannon works exactly like Chandra in that regard. On the other hand, I think the most likely home for this deck would be to fight against control. That's where this normally comes in. You can use it as a Chandra replacement in your main deck, but it will be a definite budget replacement and be significantly worse. But in tier decks, I imagine this comes in potentially in mono red, in Teamer Energy, to fight against the Torrential Gearhulk decks. They're drawing a ton of cards, they're killing your stuff. It allows you to go long as you can just keep generating card advantage, generating card advantage. The interesting thing about Vance's Blasting Cannons is if you're playing a somewhat aggressive deck and you're kind of playing a bunch of stuff in the early game, you can keep it on the enchantment side forever if you want to. It's pretty easy to only cast 2 spells in a turn, especially since you're going to be empty-handed. That's all the spells you're going to have. So if you really want to flip it around, you can kind of like save up your card draw and make it happen. But you can also just leave it on the card draw mode when some of the other members of the cycle are going to flip whether you want them to or not. So overall, I think Vance's Blasting Cannon is pretty sweet. It does compete with Chandra to some extent as far as tier decks are concerned. Most of the time, Chandra is just a better version of it, but the value once you flip around is actually really high. Lightning Bolting for 3 mana is a really strong ability. It can go to your opponent's face, give you a way to just close out the game in some sort sort of red-based control deck. So I think that Vance's Blasting Cannon, we'll have to see where it ends up, but I'm excited for it. I love Outpost Siege, and I think it's a really fun card and a good addition to Ixalan. So that's the only rare we have to talk about today, but I wanted to go over just a few of the commons and uncommons really quick. Vineshaper Mystic is kind of interesting. It's kind of like a Rishkar for Merfolk, being able to put a +1/+1 counter on 2 different creatures. If you can go 1-drop, 2-drop, play this, pump up your Merfolk. If you're going aggro-y with your Merfolk, it could be pretty strong. Plus, remember, Merfolk like +1/+1 counters. Some of their abilities work with them. So it's a nice payoff there. Could see it showing up as a 3-drop in the Merfolk deck. New Horizons gives decks a replacement for Weirding Wood, which is rotating. If you are looking for another 3-mana enchantment ramp spell, maybe with your dinosaurs, Weirding Wood I think is better. Being able to get a clue and draw a card is better than putting a counter on things most of the time. But still, I mean, we can't be picky. Putting a counter on something's fine, and being able to ramp with your lands with New Horizon is a nice benefit. Ezekan's Archer is interesting in certain metagames. Is a 1/4 for 3. It blocks really well. The fighting ability could be really good if there's a lot of X1s running around. Imagine like Falconwrath Gorger in Bombet Courier from Ramanamp Red. Comes down, shoots something down, blocks just about anything. And if you play in a dinosaur deck, which I don't know if you're really going to play this in dinosaurs, I think you want to be ramping on 3 of your dinosaurs. But if you do, you can always fight one of your own creatures to get an enrage trigger, which is a nice little trick there. We also got Fiery Cannonade, which could definitely see sideboard play in the Pirate deck. We've seen cards like this, kind of these doesn't kill everything Pyroclasm effects, actually be pretty good. So this gives us a way as a Pirate deck, if our opponent's kind of going wide, we don't really kill our stuff, and it's at instant speed, just like Kozilek's Return. So our stuff lives, we blow out all of our opponent's on-crop crashers, all that annoying stuff, sweep the board, can be a massive swing there. I don't think you'll start with this in the main deck unless the meta is really aggro-focused and has a lot of little creatures, but I could definitely see Fiery Cannonade being a all-star sideboard card for Grixis Pirates. Grim Captain's Call is just kind of a fun card. I don't think it's necessarily a good card, because I don't know if you could ever get the creature types to line up, but if somehow you can get a Pirate, a Vampire, Dinosaur, and a Merfolk all in your graveyard, you're drawing 4 really good cards for just 3 mana from your graveyard. So there's a lot of value there, but I don't really know if there's a deck that will be able to support all those creature types. Costly Plunder is actually really efficient what it does. We still have a lot of good artifacts to sacrifice in Standard. We have the Implement Cycle, things like that. So this could show up as just a card draw spell in some sort of weird Metalwork Colossus deck, maybe a Tezzeret deck if that shows up. Drawing 2 for 2 is a pretty good deal. And there's artifacts that you want to sack for value anyway that give you extra card draw or something like that. So worth considering. Shorekeeper is mostly of note because of the creature type. It's the first Trilobite in the world of Magic. As far as a card, it is incredibly expensive. I love my 1-drops to have relevance in the late game, but this one doesn't have much relevance in the early game, and 8 mana is just essentially an infinite amount of mana to ever be able to pull this off. And that is our daily Ixalan spoilers for today. So like I said, kind of a light day. There wasn't anything super exciting in the full spoiler dump. So anyway, what do you think of this set? We have the whole set now. What are you most excited to play? Head over to the full spoiler page. Follow the link down in the description. You can look at all the cards, and yeah, what do you think? What tribe are you most excited for? What non-tribal decks are you most excited for? What's the best mythic? What rares are actually playable? How do you like these vehicles? Is a power level better or worse than Kaladesh as far as actually being fun to play in Standard? What do you think of the Standard format? It's an exciting time. We're almost ready for a brand new Standard format, so let me know in the comments, and we'll be back with some more Ixalan content moving towards release day with top 10 videos for Modern and Commander and Standard, so keep an eye out for those with some super special guests. Until then, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.